I am finally ready to deal with this ever-growing pile of socks that I have been keeping in our garage. I could not bear to throw these in the landfill. I knew there must be some way to craft with them or to recycle them, and so I have been accumulating socks with holes and single socks and worn out socks for way too long, but their time has finally come. I am ready to deal with these socks this week. Hi, I'm Robin at Reduce, Reuse, Reimagine. I have been an eco-crafter and researcher for as long as I can remember, and on this channel I love to share thoughts and ideas about reducing and reusing. So without further ado, let's talk about socks. Starting of course with reduce. This is the first and most important step. One way to reduce socks, of course, is to buy good quality socks to begin with. To buy socks from conscious companies with sustainable practices and buy socks that are going to last. This is honestly a struggle for me. I buy most of our clothes at thrift shops, and of course there aren't really socks at thrift shops, so I am always shocked by the price of good socks. And I know our feet are so important, and finding socks that are going to last is so important, but this one is a struggle for me. So if you're like me, a couple suggestions. You can find socks or companies you're interested in, put them on a wish list. Sometimes I actually do see socks at thrift stores. When they're new with tags, thrift stores do take socks, and I have found great brand new socks at thrift stores. Also, some consignment shops will sell good quality, gently used socks, especially if they're from a good company. So I've also purchased some pretty quality socks at shops like these. Also, sometimes just asking myself if we actually do need more socks. Sometimes I think we're low on socks and I just realize I have piles of laundry to fold. If you are a person who knits and you're able to make your own custom socks, that is incredible. That is not one of my skill sets. It's my someday project, but I'm not there yet. Next up is reuse. To reuse a pair of socks as they are, there are some options. If your pair of socks, for whatever reason, is brand new with tags and you've just decided they aren't for you, you can pretty easily donate these socks to a thrift shop or offer them in an online shop situation or garage sale. There are events like Socktober where you can donate socks as well. I will put a link to that below. If your socks are only gently used, or sometimes, I know in my case, I've had a pack of socks for the kids and they try one on and it's not a good fit. And suddenly we have this whole pack of pretty good socks that we can't do anything with. Usually I have seen that kid consignment shops or again, outdoor shops will still take these socks even though they're not brand new in package, especially if it's pretty obvious they've never been worn. I also think events like Socktober would appreciate socks like these as well. And again, if you're a person who's pretty handy with a sewing needle and thread, you can always darn socks that have holes in them. I have never tried that, but I admire people who are able to do that. And now let's begin to get a little bit crafty with reimagine. The absolute simplest project I did was just to take this pair of socks, which my son wore for a while. So we actually had a bunch of these socks that had holes in the heels. They were not wearable or donatable. And I just cut off the very top of the sock, and it is the perfect size for a hairband. I'm wearing one now. For a hairband for me. It's my new favorite ponytail holder. The edges aren't necessarily that perfectly clean, but it's fine for me. I know a lot of socks this would not necessarily work well with, but just because he had these when he was younger, they were a bit of a tighter fit, they're perfect. Another crazy easy but functional idea is if you cut off the bottom part of the sock, and if you need to, a little bit of that top bit as well. These can be great to wear around your wrist for a couple things. One is that if you or your children like to play in the snow, and sometimes the snow will kind of get into the gloves or mittens, and wearing these around over the tops of gloves can be a great way to prevent the snow from getting in. Also, if you have children helping out in the kitchen and it's not a situation where oven gloves are needed. So my younger one has become more involved in baking in the kitchen, and sometimes we're doing something. He doesn't need oven mitts, but I still worry about his wrist bumping up against a hot pan. So this simple solution is a great protector for that wrist area. I was gonna do one of these kind of with a hand and the little thumb hole, and I found a pair of socks I really, really loved for doing this, but I just didn't really like how baggy it was around the thumb hole area. So I decided not to do that project, but it's definitely something doable. And for someone who has a good solution on that, those could be really adorable. Cutting off the foot of the sock also could be really great for those little baby leg warmers. I know we had a couple pairs of baby leg warmers, but it would be super easy just to make these from a pair of old socks. I really loved this idea of using an old sock as a drink sleeve, especially if the sock has a cute design and it's not too worn out. This can be a really, really cute and easy drink sleeve. You may or may not have seen this idea for a hair, I think they're called hair donuts or hair bun makers. I know in the past we've purchased a couple of these and they're like the easiest thing if you want to make them out of socks. And the cool part about using an old pair of socks for this is that it's free and you can find a sock that kind of matches your hair color in case any of the hair donut kind of shows through. So the basic idea is that you cut off just the very end of the sock and you roll it in on itself like this. And when you put it in your hair, you just kind of roll it into a bun, or if you have smaller socks, you could do 2 buns. I will not be the best person to show a tutorial of how this works, but I will link to someone below who has a great explanation of this. These sock pumpkins are adorable. I showed this briefly in my fabric pumpkins video. The basic idea is you take a sock and you put filling in there. I just save old pillows and we use the stuffing for any number of craft projects. You could also stuff these with fabric scraps or even with other old socks. So once you've stuffed the bottom section of this, you just tie off the top, either by just wrapping a string around it or sewing a little gathering stitch and then wrapping it around, and then just cut the top off. You'll take a needle through the bottom center of the sock ball and bring it up through the top center. And if you do this 4 or 5 times, it just sort of creates these little bumps that look pumpkin-y when it's done. I just used, I don't know, like an embroidery floss for this. And then at the very end, you can glue a stick on the top or a wine cork or something that's gonna just represent a stem. So these are really, really cute and they're super fun to make, and you could have this assortment of different unique looking pumpkins. And a similar idea to this are these sock bunnies. This one, you just take the same idea, except instead of just wrapping the thread around once, you kind of wrap it around in 2 different spaces. So you have a body section and then a head section. And then with the bunnies, you just cut the excess right down the middle to create 2 little ears. And you can draw a face on or glue little buttons on for eyes. I've seen people make these as snow people as well, so that's another option. You could tie a little ribbon around the neck. I just used stuffing in this one, but I wish I had used something a little heavier like maybe some rice or flaxseed or something, just to weigh it down a little bit. They're just so fun to make and to have out at springtime. These are just some mini bean bags. So some of the sock designs I just wanted to showcase because I thought they were so cute. And in this case, I just cut off the foot of the sock and turned it inside out to sew one edge. And then I turned it right side out and put some feed corn in there. If you don't know what feed corn is, it's different than popcorn. Probably use rice or actual dried beans for this. I would just probably freeze whatever you're gonna use first, or some sort of process to make sure that bugs don't start living in there. And then I just sewed the top closed, and you've got these really cute little bean bags to throw around. And if you do use the feed corn and your socks are cotton, then you can heat these up and have little hand warmers as well. So I saw this idea for a Christmas wreath, sort of a green and red wreath made out of socks, and I thought it was so cute and it was really well done. We did not have a lot of red and green socks, and the ones we had were all different shapes and sizes, and when I tried to make this, it was a total Pinterest fail. It did not look good. But what I did realize is that we did have a lot of kid socks that were almost the same size that had either eyeballs or monsters on them. So I used this same idea and sort of made like a monster Halloween wreath. And I just used a scrap piece of cardboard for the base of the wreath. And then after cutting off the foot part of the socks. I just kind of slid them on in a random order, and I did end up kind of gluing them down a little bit just so they would stay. But I think it's really cute, and I'm excited to hang it up this fall. And then there's this book. This is full of the most adorable stuffies made from socks or gloves. It was written by Miyako Kanamori. I will try to find it and provide a link below. I've had this book for years and wanted to make something from it, and I've just been too intimidated, but I thought this was the chance to do it. So I chose this zebra, which is so stinking cute. My zebra did not come out looking the same, but I still think that this zebra is super cute, and I'm so glad that I made it. And it wasn't that bad, so I'm looking forward to trying some other projects from this book as well. I did make a couple little outfits. We had these teeny tiny baby socks that were so cute, and I wish I'd gotten a picture of them before I cut them up, but they had these little trees on them and a soft little edge at the top. So I was inspired by this little sweater. Sewed one of those, and my daughter put it on one of her dolls, and it's so cute. It looks like this very fashionable sweater with a little cozy neck. And the other one I cut kind of like a vest or a vest dress, which I also think came out really cute. And that one was super easy to make. I didn't do any sewing at all. And then while I don't have footage of some of these other ideas, I just thought I'd share them really quickly. I've used baby socks to store ornaments and protect ornaments in our holiday box. I've seen people take bigger socks and use them to put over outside shoes if they don't want to get their floors dirty. I have seen teachers use socks as dry erasers for their whiteboards. Of course, there's the classic sock puppets, which are super fun to make. And then I've seen people cut socks into loops to make things like pot holders or even jump ropes. There are a ton of fun ideas for reimagining socks. And the last step, are socks recyclable? Yes, they are. This has been the big question for me, and one of the reasons I've hung on to these socks for so long. The company Smartwool or Merino has a program where they recycle socks. It does not have to be their brand. It can be any socks as long as they're clean and not paired together. So even if you have a pair of socks, just don't group them together. In the month of April, they have collection boxes in REIs and other outdoor stores. You can look on their website and find out if there's one near you. If it's not April and you really want to recycle your socks through their program, you can order a bag that they will send you, which you can put your socks in and then send back to them. It's free, except that there is a shipping charge. As of right now, at least for where I am, it's $7, which for me, I am happy to spend $7 to get rid of the socks and get them recycled and to support their program. But if that is something that does not appeal to you, you could wait until April. Or if you're ordering something else from their website, then you could just kind of add the bag for free to your order where you're already paying shipping, if that makes sense. There is another company, Terracycle, that does sock recycling. As of this moment, when I look, it is a wait list to get into this program. That might shift in the future. It's worth looking into. And then sometimes there are just textile recycling bins out and about. Where we used to live, we had one by our local grocery store, and I miss it so much because it was not just a donation bin, it was a textile recycling bin. So do some research and see if there's one of those in your area. That is another option for recycling socks. I'd love to hear from you. If any of you have any sock projects that you like to make or you've seen somewhere, I'd love to hear about them. Or if you know of any other good recycling spots for recycling socks specifically. Those were just two of the ones that seemed the most accessible and legit to me. But I would love to know if there are any other options out there. Thank you so much for joining me and for watching. Our actions can and will make a difference. See you next time.